Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show tonight. This is Shadow at Night for, what is it, the 20th, the 21st, whatever the date. I think it might be the 20th. No, it's the 22nd. Yeah, May 22nd. Wednesday, May 22nd, 2024. I canceled a guest for the show tonight because there is some serious blockbuster news that we need to discuss. And further to that, I may be able to open this can of worms even more in the next couple of weeks with an eyeball witness. Somebody who has actually sat and listened to Robert Pickton's words for almost nearly the length of time he's been in prison and is now willing to talk about what he, Robert Pickton himself, has said about who he may have been working with to kill all those kids. This is not to let Robert Pickton off the hook, because this guy is evil as F. I mean, sick in the head. Completely and totally warped. But who are the other warped people who worked with him? So we're going to talk about Robert Pickton in just a second. Also, video released, this is interesting to me. Video released over the weekend by CNN, the criminal news network in the United States, of P. Diddy, Sean Combs, Puff Daddy, whatever you want to call him, beating his then girlfriend in 2016 in what looks like a hotel hallway, cameras all over the place. They've had this video for 8 years. I'm not sure if CNN has had this video for 8 years, but this video has been in existence for 8 years, and only this past weekend it gets released. P. Diddy has released an apology on YouTube. We'll get to that as well, and some of the other sordid things that he did. And one of the other big stories tonight, if not the biggest, is stocks have gone crazy today over vaccines. The second case of bird flu, H5N1, was reported in the United States today. A bird farmer in Michigan apparently has contracted this illness. Is it the next pandemic? We know that the World Health Organization pandemic treaty is set to be signed later on this week. And once they get that signed, even if they don't get the full authorization of the United States, because that's going to have to clear the Senate, and the Senate has already said they're not going to do that. They need 2/3 of the Senate to get this thing passed. But Joe Biden could always just do an executive order. And the same thing goes in Canada here. I mean, even if Parliament doesn't pass it, Justin Trudeau could just release an order in council and say, yeah, this is what we're doing. So we still have a lot of hurdles here. And then it would have to go to court to prove that it's unconstitutional. But you see, this is the problem. You take 2 years or 3 years to get to court with an unconstitutional case. You know you're going to win, but that law is still in effect until such time as it's proven unlawful. And look at all the damage they did during COVID using that precedent. So we're going to get to all of that in just a moment. The Shadow at Night live stream is brought to you by Canada Nano Silver, CanadaNanoSilver.ca. The immune gummies, probably one of the biggest, most popular products on the website. Simplify your daily immune support with convenient and delicious Nano Silver immune gummies. Each serving contains powerful triple action Nano Silver, elderberry, vitamin C, and vitamin D3 to help supercharge your immune system. Our safe and proven Nano Silverceutical technology works alongside your body's own immune system to help you stay healthy and strong for all that life throws at you. And don't forget, these things are very, very tasty as well. You want to leave them out of the reach of the kids, because the kids will take care of this entire bottle in probably 5 minutes. Oh, those gummy bears are so good, Mommy, Grandma, Daddy, Grandpa. I want some more. No. They get 2 per day, and that lasts for a month, and then you get more. Immune gummies and all the other fantastic products available on the website, CanadaNanoSilver.ca, or you can find a retail location near you on the retail locations tab on the website if you'd like to become a retailer of these awesome products. And there's still some areas of the country that we haven't covered yet with retail locations. Get a hold of Kevin and Anna through the contact tab at CanadaNanoSilver.ca. Again, that is CanadaNanoSilver.ca. And don't forget, $2 from every product sold is going to go to help out the Stronger Together conference, which is happening here in Manitoba Beausejour, Manitoba, about 25 minutes northeast of Winnipeg, June 21st, 22nd, 23rd, put on by Ken and Rosalie Drysdale of Manitoba Stronger Together. I had lunch with those two today. They are so much fun, and they're such great people, and they're putting their own money into this project. Chances are good they're going to take a bath on this. I mean, people have been saying, you're just in this for the money. It's a fundraiser. Who's the fundraiser for? It's not a fundraiser. Chances are good that Ken and Rosalie are probably going to lose money on this. But that's not the point here. Money is not the point. Even though Ken says, you guys can see the total accounting if you like, I will show you everything. He's completely wide open and transparent on all of that stuff. It's not about the money. It's about bringing people from coast to coast together in one spot right in the middle of the country so we can talk about solution-based ideas to help get us out of this mess that we ourselves are partly responsible for putting us in. So that is coming up June 21st, 22nd, 23rd. More information if you want to buy your tickets, and it's so reasonably priced out. There's going to be some great seminars. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be the moderator of all the panels. One of the hosts, Ken and Rosalie, obviously will be there. Kevin and Anna from Canada, Nano Silver. We've got Rebel News going to be down there. You can see all of the people who will be there on the website. It costs like $260. For that, you get 6 meals, 3 days of seminars. You don't have to pay any extra for the meals down there. You're going to be served those meals. That's all included in the cost. Go check it out on the website. ManitobaStrongerTogether.ca. ManitobaStrongerTogether.ca. All right, quickly, let's go say some hellos to the people who are watching tonight. Vivian is watching tonight. I think that's on Facebook. Hello, Vivian. How are you doing? So Sheeta is watching tonight. Dan, Kim, Melinda, Diane. Pickton said he was writing a book. Well, there's going to be more that comes out about this. And it looks like, I can't say this for certain, but it looks like I'm going to have an exclusive on this in the next couple of weeks. I can't say any more about it than that right now. Dennis is watching tonight. Hello. Yeah, so Sheeta is watching from Kingston. Hello, David, Mimi, Linda. You guys are all mixed up and you're commenting tonight. Or am I mixed up? Maybe I'm the one that's mixed up. Usually, it's the one person that's mixed up, not the 500. I just want to say thank you guys for being here tonight. And don't forget to like and share on whatever social media platform you're watching on tonight. If it's Facebook, it's a like and a share. If it's X, it's a repost and a heart. And if it's Rumble, you hit the share button beneath the screen. That highlights the URL above the screen. You copy and paste that URL to your favorite social media email or group. And who is watching on Rumble tonight? Stump Slayer and MBP113. And What's Up, Canada? Wayne Peters is watching tonight. North Scotty Weeby Jammin'. Susie Q is here. Vilma's here. Monsterberg, Miss Kitty 19. Again, guys, give us a thumbs up on Rumble. Let's get this out there to as many people as we possibly can. All right, let's start the show with the Robert Pickton story, which came out today, by the way, on all of the left-wing corporate media. Even though this attack happened 3 days ago in prison. So from the Vancouver Sun, suspect in Robert Pickton prison attack has lengthy criminal history, sentenced for armed robbery. BC serial killer was brutally assaulted May 19th, about 5:15 p.m. in a unit for at-risk inmates in Quebec's Port Cartier Maximum Security Prison. There he is there, evil SOB. The man suspected of attacking BC serial killer Robert Pickton at the Maximum Security Prison has a long history of criminal offense dating back decades. Martin Spike Charret, 51, has not yet been. Service Canada called a major result, which left Pickton hospitalized and in a coma. But sources confirmed the longtime prisoner suspect under investigation. Pickton was brutally assaulted May 19th at about 5:15 in Quebec's Port Cartier Maximum Security Prison. During the surprise attack, a broken broom handle was shoved into his head. He was flown to hospital in the Quebec capital, 600 kilometers from the prison. The Correctional Service Canada has not provided any information on his medical condition, but Post Media, digging, has learned that he remains in critical but stable condition. Pickton, 74, is serving a life sentence after a jury convicted him in 2007 of killing Georgina Papin, Serena Abbotsway, Mona Wilson, Andrea Joesbury, Brenda Ann Wolfe, and Marnie Fry. In all, DNA from 33 women was found on his Port Coquitlam farm. Pickton once bragged to an undercover officer he had killed 49 women. In 2022, Charest was serving time at the Donnacona Institution, a maximum security penitentiary near Quebec City, when he was charged with more than a dozen counts of uttering threats to cause bodily harm or the death of a person. On May 22nd, 2022, he pleaded guilty to all 13 of the counts he faced and was sentenced to a 36-month prison term. So did this guy act alone? Or was he hired or bribed or coerced? What happened there? This is an interesting story that I don't usually cover this publication because Mark Slapinski has put out a lot of wackadoo stuff. You have no idea which way this guy is coming from most of the time. But he has been covering this Trudeau connection to Robert Pickton quite closely for the past few years, as many of you guys have. And there's a more interesting story coming up in just a second, but let's do this one first. Pickton, Trudeau, Brenda Lucki, former commissioner of the RCMP, the unholy trinity. The attempted assassination of high-profile inmate Robert Pickton is raising eyebrows. Justin Trudeau may have had an interest in silencing serial killer Robert Pickton. Again, this is all speculation, you guys. We're not saying that this is real. We're not. We can't. We haven't got the evidence yet, if we ever will. So let's just go along with this here. Just what if? We're playing a game called Suppose. Okay? Suppose ... Justin Trudeau may have had an interest in silencing Robert Pickton, who was viciously assaulted while he was in process of releasing a tell-all book. Okay? The infamous pig farmer was in the process of finishing a book where he planned to name the real culprits behind the killings attributed to him and his farm, as was reported by the Vancouver Sun. He was attacked in prison by another inmate in what appears to be a botched assassination. We say assassination and not murder. Now, they're the same but different. Assassination is absolutely first-degree murder. It's somebody has hired an assassin to kill somebody else. Assassinated. JFK was assassinated. Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, not just randomly murdered. Assassinated, a targeted murder. Pickton is currently clinging to life in the hospital at the time of the writing of this article. If Pickton dies as a result of this assault, which is likely considering the severity of the attack and his age, the real identities of his accomplices will go down with him. Well, that's not completely true. And by the way, this is video from one of the survivors. This is the woman, I believe, that got Pickton arrested back in the day here.
Hope that people get fired.
Julian insists the case is not over. Pickton had help carrying out his murders.
At least Pickton's caught, right? He's a monster. But there were other people that drove me there, so they knew about it. But I don't think I should say any more.
Why not? Why shouldn't you? Because you're going to be targeted yourself. Yeah, okay. Pickton is an elderly pig farmer, former pig farmer, convicted, blah, 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 blah. Okay, let's get down to this interesting part here. The RCMP, under Trudeau-appointed Commissioner Brenda Lucki, this is part of the unholy triad we mentioned at the early part of this story, made attempts to destroy evidence that was collected during the investigation, raising eyebrows. In 2020, the federal police agency applied to the court to destroy some of the exhibits, a move that Pickton himself opposed in court. Why would he care? Oh, right. Because he wants it known that there were other people involved in this, not just him. Pickton told the court that destroying the evidence would prevent other perpetrators from being brought to justice. The RCMP, now controlled by Trudeau-appointed Commissioner Mike Duhaime, currently wants to destroy 14,000 pieces of evidence, a move that's being contested by a multitude of advocates. Anytime you dispose of evidence, especially evidence that has DNA on it, you're signaling there is no hope, stated crime investigator Sasha Reed. Why do they want to destroy this evidence? What's compelling them to want to destroy this? It's taking up too much space in the back. We need it. The Trudeau connection. As the news broke about Pickton's attempted assassination, some have pointed the finger at Trudeau. While the connection may seem far-fetched at first, a closer look reveals some odd links between the Prime Minister and the convicted serial killer. Trudeau has faced accusations of spending time partying at the pig farm. I'm sure you've heard about those. As well as sexually abusing his students. We've heard about that. Trudeau was a substitute teacher at a high school in Coquitlam, British Columbia, which is a short drive and well within walking distance of the Pickton pig farm. There's a map to illustrate. One source indicated that Trudeau was a frequent guest at the pig farm, making trips because it became a party palace, which we'll get more into in just a second. Not the pig farm, but a building on the pig farm. Let's go party at the pig farm. So Trudeau was a frequent guest at the pig farm, making trips during his tenure as a substitute teacher at the local school. Viral news stories circulated during the 2019 election that claimed Trudeau forced a young student into a NDA, non-disclosure agreement cover-up in an appropriate relationship. The claims about the parties lack evidence, and the sexual abuse allegations surrounding students have been thoroughly debunked by fact checkers. What does that mean? Doesn't mean anything in this day and age. Fact checkers, give me a break. However, Trudeau has faced credible allegations of sexual assault, including the groping of a reporter back in the early 2000s, as was reported by multiple news outlets, including the BBC. During his time at a separate school, West Point Grey Academy, he befriended a man that was later sentenced to jail for possession of child pornography. There's several pictures. I forget the guy's name, though. You guys may want to write it down in the comments. I'm sure some of you have already got that name out of your mouths. You probably yelled it out the second I said, I forgot. So go ahead and write it down in the comments. Conclusion. At the time, there is no hard evidence that Trudeau was involved with the murders that Pickton was eventually convicted of, nor is there any evidence that Trudeau ordered the assassination of Pickton himself. However, the timing of Pickton's attempted assassination and the supposed release of his tell-all book has led people to ask questions, some hard questions that deserve further investigation. Number one, why did Trudeau resign from his teaching position abruptly? Number two, why is the RCMP under his appointees trying to destroy important evidence collected from Pickton's farm? Number three, why did a maximum security prison allow a high-profile inmate like Pickton to be in close contact with another inmate with a history of violence? That's actually a great question. Number four, who were Pickton's accomplices? And number five, why are the survivors of Pickton's pig farm still afraid to speak out? Very, 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 very interesting. To go even deeper on this, unacceptable Canadian girl. Let me say that again because I bunged it up. Unacceptable Canadian girl here on X. Quite a popular account as well. I think something like 70,000 followers. The Robert Pickton connection. In order to understand why his attempted murder is so significant, you first need to understand the people that Pickton, the Pickton brothers, were tied to. This is going to be good, you guys. You may not have seen this. Let's start with StarNet. Kenneth Lelik was the founder of StarNet, located on Vancouver's downtown east side. StarNet was raided for running online gambling as well as streaming hardcore child and adult porn for high-profile individuals. But here's where it gets interesting, like that's not interesting enough. Lelik also ran a business with a man called Lloyd Robinson, who was leader of the Hells Angels Vancouver chapter. Their business was to source and provide prostitutes and strippers for sex films that were being live streamed by Starnet around the world for high-profile individuals. Again, this is all speculation. I can't say that it's absolutely true. I can't. I mean, Canadian girl here on X might be stating it as fact. I cannot. I just can't verify it. Having said that, let's continue. David and Robert Pickton had become good friends with the HAs, the Hells Angels, and were running a chop shop for the Hells Angels on their farm. The brothers would have large pits dug around the farm where they buried stolen goods and evidence of stolen goods and animal bones and carcasses. They also had the rendering plant doing pickups at the farm 2 to 3 times a week to pick up animal remains. At the same time, David Pickton ran a demo and earth-moving business. Trucks were moving dirt between their properties constantly. Eventually, much of this dirt was moved under the local Walmart and Superstore. David Pickton later started Piggy's Palace, located around the corner on Burns Road. That's where the partying happened, not at the pig farm. Piggy's Palace nightclub. Piggy's Palace Good Time Society became a federally registered charity. Hells Angels, off-duty Vancouver police, RCMP, and city councilors would hang out at Piggy's Palace on a regular basis and attend the parties. One city councilor even rented out the venue for a children's charity event. The parties held at Piggy's Palace had up to 1,700 people at times and were rife with drugs and prostitutes. The Pickton farm was very close to both a sea and rail port, which travels directly into Seattle. The rail and sea ports also provide direct access to the rest of the world and provide a breeding ground for human trafficking. Over the last few decades, women, children, and young men have been disappearing from both Seattle and BC in unusually high numbers. Families of these individuals have been trying to raise awareness and get help for their loved ones, but continue to be ignored by the authorities. Robert Pickton stated on many occasions that he did not act alone and stated to an undercover RCMP officer that if I get nailed to the cross, there's about 15 more going down with me. Summation, Robert Pickton was not acting alone. The question is, who else was involved and who else can testify against high-profile elected individuals or former members of police services, RCMP, Vancouver Police et al.? This is all very interesting stuff. And to have your name linked with something like this would be an instant societal death. You would have to leave the country. You would have no choice. That would be the end for you. It would be worse than being Paul Bernardo, Carla Homolka, people like that. You just have to go. Your face would be instantly recognizable anywhere you went. No. So that's where we're at with the Robert Pickton thing right now. But in the next couple of weeks, I may have an exclusive with somebody who was very, very close to Robert Pickton over the years and knows a lot more than anybody else does. I can't promise you that right now for certain, but it's possible. Now there's more. Diddy. Sean Diddy Combs. This is back in March. Remember when his place was raided back at the end of March? We're going to do this story first before we get into the new stuff, the recent stuff, the stuff that's just happened in the last couple or 3 days. What we know about the accusations against P. Diddy. A string of sexual assault allegations have been made against Diddy, one of the most successful music moguls in the history of rap. 4 women, including his longtime partner, Cassandra Cassie Ventura. Remember that name. Cassie Ventura, have filed lawsuits against him, accusing him of sexual and physical abuse. Producer Rodney Lil Rod Jones filed a similar suit in February, alleging Combs abused him over a year-long period when he was living on the star's properties and working on his music. In a statement issued last December, Combs defended himself against what he described as sickening allegations made by individuals looking for a quick payday. Let me be absolutely clear. I did not do any of the awful things being alleged, he said, adding he would fight to clear his name. He must have known that video was out there. He must have known that. But whoever's above him on the ladder said, don't worry, Diddy, we got you. Though that video's never going to get out. As long as you keep playing ball, that video's never going to get out, man. However, back in March of 2024, this past March, federal agents raided 2 houses owned by the star as part of an ongoing investigation into sex trafficking. His lawyer called the action an unprecedented ambush and a gross overuse of military-level force and maintained his client's innocence. All right, never mind. That's the story that came out a couple of months ago. So, having said that, if you guys have not seen this video and you're adverse to violence, because this is pretty awful, I suggest you turn your eyes for just a few seconds so you don't have nightmares tonight. Video of Diddy in 2016, 8 years ago, just released to the public this past weekend. Have you heard of any charges being laid on P. Diddy at all in the last 8 years for anything? I haven't. Oh, look, there's his girlfriend, Cassie, one of the ones who's now suing him. As this poster said, this guy should have been in jail a long time ago. Let's watch this. It's awful.
Exclusively by CNN appears to corroborate some of the allegations of abuse against music mogul Sean Diddy Combs. The video, captured on multiple cameras, shows Combs assaulting his then-girlfriend Cassie Ventura in a hallway at a Los Angeles hotel in March 2016. A lawsuit filed by Ventura in November last year and settled the next day referenced actions that seem to match those seen in this video. There is no audio. According to the complaint, Combs became extremely intoxicated and punched Miss Ventura in the face, giving her a black eye, which, according to the lawsuit, prompted Ventura to try and leave the hotel room. The surveillance video obtained by CNN begins as she enters the hallway. The complaint says as she exited, Mr. Combs awoke and began screaming at Miss Ventura. He followed her into the hallway of the hotel while yelling at her. The complaint goes on to say he grabbed her and then took glass vases in the hallway and threw them at her. In the surveillance video, Combs can be seen grabbing Ventura and throwing her to the ground. As Ventura lies on the ground, Combs then kicks her twice and attempts to drag her on the floor back to the hotel room. Ventura is seen picking up a hotel phone. Combs seems to walk back to the hotel room, then returns and appears to shove her in a corner. Moments later, he can be seen throwing an object in her direction. According to Ventura's now settled lawsuit, the pair began dating, obtained exclusive.
Okay, so that's all we have. And if you think, all right, so there's that one video out there, there's got to be more. There's got to be dozens more. So what is it exactly with this guy? Why are they protecting him? Because he was useful to them. He was useful to the cabal. But now that he's been raided and the FBI has probably got evidence, lots of evidence against him and his co-conspirators, they have to do something. So he's the one. Diddy is the one who's now being thrown to the wolves. That's exactly what they're doing. Diddy, P. Diddy, one of the richest people in entertainment. I think he's worth over $1 billion. They're throwing him to the wolves. Isn't that astounding? If it can happen to P. Diddy, it can happen to anybody, and they should all be terrified right now. All of these ghouls who are taking part in all of this crap should absolutely be terrified right now. Either that, or they could all band together and reveal the leaders, the top rung, and we could bring this thing down completely and totally. Boom. In one fell swoop. This is P. Diddy's apology video released over the weekend.
It's so difficult to reflect on the darkest times in your life, but sometimes you got to do that. I was fucked up. I mean, I hit rock bottom, but I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I'm disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now. I went and I sought out professional help.
Yeah,
I had to
sure
go
you
into therapy,
did.
going to rehab. Had to ask God for his mercy and grace. I'm so sorry. But I'm committed to be a better man each and every day. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm truly sorry.
And that's it. So, do you believe him? Did that seem sincere to you? No, of course it didn't. He was doing the best job he could to make it seem like that. And I'm sure some people might buy it. I don't. I've known guys like this. I spent years in entertainment myself, not at that level, obviously, but I have spent time in entertainment. I've known people like this. They never have any remorse about anything, ever. They're narcissists. They are sociopaths. They are not to be trusted with anything. They would step on your face without thinking twice about it. That's the kind of people that we're dealing with here. So when you sit there and you think, nah, they'd never do that stuff. Yes, they would. You wouldn't. They would. Everything you've seen in the movies and TV shows, all those conspiracy style movies, everything you've seen about some kind of dark, shadowy agency working in the background and some conspiratorial bad guy who's trying to take over the world, that stuff is based on something. I believe there is not just one, probably many different conspiracies going around to take over the planet on many different levels all around the world right now. And maybe that's why it seems so confusing, because we see this and then we see that. We see it doesn't make sense. We can't put it all together. Maybe that's because there is more than one. These guys aren't working together. Remember, their egos are massive. And if somebody steps up and says, you're going to do this, that massive ego will say, I'm not doing that. They're fighting amongst themselves. I think that's what's ultimately going to bring them down. We get caught in the middle, sadly. But if we all rise up together, man, at the end of the day, it's over for all of them. All they've got on us is money. And what is money? Nothing, really. If we get down to the basic of basics, money is nothing. Oh, one more thing about Diddy. He used to have these big parties they called freak-offs. And he used to collect phones, all the phones from people who would show up at his parties. Why would he do that? Here's video of Diddy collecting phones. Phones. No video. Phones. Yeah, so that goes on for another minute. Now, I'm sure there's all kinds of sordid stuff. It could be that Diddy didn't want video getting out of anybody doing cocaine or orgies or whatever. Or maybe, just maybe, it could be something way worse. We don't know because there's no videos, because there's no phones. Phones. I'm going to get into this story in just a second from TNC.news. True North, DEI Inc. exposed. How much have the Liberals spent in the last 5 years instilling diversity, equity, and inclusion in all of our institutions? $30 million. $30 million of our dollars. We're going to talk about that in just a second. So, Ken Drysdale and I had a fantastic discussion today, and we're not going to name names here. But what I will say is that this is very difficult for me. We're in a war. All of us are in a war, a good versus evil war. And there are people out there still who are in this for the wrong reasons. They're in this for notoriety. They're in this to make money. And to me, that's wrong. And you only find these things out when push comes to shove. When the rubber hits the road. When somebody says they're going to show up at something, to me, that is a commitment. You have said, you have given your promise to be at an event or at a party or wherever. And so now you'd better damn well show up. When you don't, even after you said you would, you're showing what your character really is. If you have that kind of character in a battle like this, we don't have a chance. So we all need gut checks from time to time. All of us do. We all need to look in the mirror and say, exactly what am I doing this for? Am I letting bad feelings of envy, jealousy, am I letting feelings of suspicion get in my way? Why do those feelings of suspicion exist? All of this stuff, this is discernment that we're using inside, right? And if you feel strongly enough, you're going to be able to root out the good from the bad. And this is what I've been doing as an ongoing thing, I'm going to say now for 4 years, where you meet somebody, you think they're a good, solid individual, and 6 months later, maybe a year later, you find out different. That's what we're facing right now. But I'm not suggesting all of these people are bad people inherently. Of course not. But they might be doing something for the wrong reasons, and they can change that. They can change that. I don't do this for the money. I mean, I need a certain amount to keep myself going, to keep this show going, to survive. But that's really all I care about. I don't care about yachts and cars, and I live a very minimalistic life. You've heard me say that before, and that's fine with me. I don't care. I've had to adjust that over and over and over again for these past 5 years, and that's okay. Whatever. But there's other people who are doing it to gain wealth as opposed to fighting the fight. And maybe they don't believe themselves what they are saying. We have got a problem coming right in our face. Huge, huge problem. You guys know what this problem is. It is the Great Reset, and it's coming right at us, and it's speeding up. It's getting here. Yeah, there are signs of victories along the way for us. But while this huge monolithic thing is coming at us the way it is, there are people squabbling over money right now. People squabbling over expenses, schedules. I'm sorry, I can't be there. I've double booked myself. What am I going to do? Then you quickly find out exactly who is committed to what. I've been asked to do a lot of these things. And if I can go, I will go. If I can find a way there, I will go. Never once have I ever asked for anything in the way of money. It's been offered to me. And sometimes people say, you must take this. If you don't, you're insulting me. And I say, okay, that's great. Thank you. Thank you very much. But for me, it's an embarrassing thing. For these other people, that's everything. And you can tell just from looking in their face. And that's really all I want to say about that right now. But when we do have this Stronger Together conference next month in Beausejour, again, June 21st, 22nd, 23rd, I really hope that we can put all of that stuff aside and focus on what we need to focus on. Not everybody can be the leader. yeah, we're all, big fish in small ponds, right? I mean, like there's so many of us who have independent media channels out there, or people who have formed organizations or whatever. And yeah, okay, great. You're big fish in your small pond. But then all these small ponds come together and all this bickering starts. And that's no good. We can see what's happening right now. Think about, I don't know, a national hockey team. Let's go back to Canada versus Russia back in the 80s. I forget what year, 87 it was. You've got the best players from every single team together on one team. All the captains, probably 20 captains on one team. Well, what did those guys do when they were all together in the same room? They found a role and they stayed in their lane and they became a team. And they put their egos aside. And that's what we all need to do. Every single one of us. We all have a role to play. And it's my hope, I pray for this, that we can all learn what our roles are as we move forward together. Because I'll tell you what, with all of the different groups that we do have fighting back in this country right now, even if we all formed a loose association together and all stood up when the time came, we would win instantly. There would be no choice. The other guys go, what the? We didn't expect this. So the bickering, the internal bickering, all of these little groups that sit there and get together on Thursday nights in garages or have their little chat meetings on X. Well, this guy and this guy and this guy. And this guy. Again, I'm not naming names here, but they are. And they're more than happy to try and take people down. Now, if somebody deserves to be taken down, they should be. Absolutely. If you have evidence on them that they're wrong, that they're lying. But ultimately, this amounts to nothing more than backbiting, backstabbing, and it needs to stop. We all need to come together or we're going to get rolled over. It's coming. It's Agenda 2030, not Agenda 2050, and Agenda 2030 has been turned up. We need to now start banding together here. Put all this crap aside and get on with it. Look what they're doing to us here. Look at this. DEI Inc. It's everywhere. I walked past the Manitoba Teachers Society building today. They had 3 flags flying. Sorry, 4. The Canadian flag, the Manitoba flag, the City of Winnipeg flag, and the rainbow flag. How the rainbow flag deserves to be flying next to the other 3, I have no idea, but there it was. It's been just imbued in our society, in our very institutions, and it needs to go. The Liberals have spent 30 million of our dollars getting all this crap out there. $30 million to enrich diversity, equity, and inclusion consultants. These are consultants they're paying this money to. Never mind all the people these NGOs have hired over the past 5 years. And they've created new federal departments for this. True North analyzed a 400-page inquiry of ministry released to the Conservative MP Carrie Lynn Findlay, detailing diversity, equity, and inclusion contracts across dozens of federal ministries going back to January 1st of 2019. Government contracts reveal a cabal of consultants trafficking in the dark arts of gender ideology, systemic racism theory, which is BS, and other ideological demagoguery. Egregious spending by Ottawa ranges from contracts for sex change seminars at the Veterans Review and Appeal Board, pipe ceremonies at Correction Service Canada, Indigenous cooking and beadworking lessons, and a batch of transgender pride flags. And the largest recipient of DEI spending was the Department of National Defense, with the Liberal government dumping $9.3 million to reform the Canadian military into an institution rooted in DEI ideology. Broken down departmentally, Employment and Social Development Canada, followed by National Defense with $6.9 million, Parole Board of Canada, $2.26 million, Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada, $2.13 million, and Canadian Heritage with $1.72 million. The largest DEI contract was worth $7.23 million. It was awarded to IBM Canada Limited for professional support to aid in recruitment modernization with a focus on diversity. Other hefty bills include $189,400 for Cal Unlimited to build institutional gender-based analysis, whatever that is. Some of the most well-known names in the DEI industry were also employed by DND. Diversity and equity contracts signed by the National Defense included a $22,600 guest speaker payout for St. Mary's University social justice professor Dr. Rachel Zellers in the form of a Black History Month celebration. The contract was signed off January 16th of this year. So while we bicker, backbite, and fight, that's what the Liberal government is doing based upon the recommendations of the World Economic Forum. Okay. I have said my piece on this for now. There may be more later, probably not tonight, maybe tomorrow. I don't know. Oh, by the way, tomorrow night, this is going to be a very interesting show. We have Boyd Anderson and hopefully Dale Richardson on the show to talk about an event they attended where Scott Moe, the Premier of Saskatchewan, was. They were talking about land use rights. So they're going to talk about that tomorrow night. I haven't yet reached out to Dale. Hopefully he's available. Boyd Anderson definitely will be on the show tomorrow night. All right, so we all complain. How come the Conservative Party never talks about the World Economic Forum? How come the Conservative Party never talks about Chrystia Freeland being a member of the World Economic Forum, or how the World Economic Forum has permeated the ideology of our government? All right, that's fair. I haven't seen a lot of that. You see it every now and again, usually from Leslyn Lewis and not really anybody else. Pierre Poilievre will talk about it if he's asked, but that usually happens at the town halls he goes to across the country. Andrew Scheer lately, and I will say that these videos are enlightening and somewhat amusing sometimes. They should really start their own comedy troupe or their own news network or something. The Conservative News Network of Canada. So he's been putting these videos out lately. And this one is about Trudeau being the real wacko extremist. Now, it's 13 minutes long. We're going to play it until its conclusion, and then we are going to go to the extension on shadowdavis.com. So we're going to stay on socials until this video is over. Then we'll go discuss it in the extension on shadowdavis.com. If you're not an all-access member, go there, shadowdavis.com now, and become one. But when we get to the middle of the video, guys, right about here, Scheer is going to start talking about something very, very interesting. Yeah, that's right. The World Economic Forum. Here we go.
You won't believe what happened in the House of Commons last week. Someone used a word so offensive that pearls were clutched, knickers were twisted, and as the kids say, mad sus was had.
When will we put an end to this wacko policy by this wacko Prime Minister?
Mr. Poilievre, I'm going to ask the Honourable Leader of the Opposition to withdraw.
You can almost hear the collective, oh my, all the way past the Queensway. Now, I've had the honor to represent Regina Capel in the House of Commons for a few years now, including a term as Speaker of the House of Commons. And I can tell you that wacko doesn't even make the top 10 most outrageous insults that I've heard used in the chamber.
Put an end to this wacko policy by this wacko Prime Minister.
The Speaker couldn't stand it and kicked the Leader of the Opposition out of the chamber.
I order you to withdraw from the House and from any participation.
Then the media went into great detail, using lots of ink and lots of time on television, analyzing the word wacko and whether or not it was unparliamentary and whether or not it should have been used in the debate.
Would you say it's time for everyone to panic? Yes, I would, Ken.
And it got me thinking, never mind looking at the word that was used to describe the policy. Let's take a look at the policy itself. Justin Trudeau legalized the use of hard drugs like meth, crack, and opioids in public places in British Columbia. That's the subject that was under debate that day. So instead of focusing on the word wacko itself, why don't we take a look at all the ways that Justin Trudeau is a wacko, way out there, an extremist. Because that's another word for wacko, isn't it? It's basically saying you're so far out there on the extreme fringes of public opinion or societal norms that you seem like a wacko. And if you've caught my video on Trudeauing, you know that one of the things that Justin Trudeau likes to do is accuse his opponents of the very thing he's guilty of himself. Now, I'm sure we can all agree that thinking that it's okay for someone to use meth in a maternity ward in a hospital where nurses have to treat other patients and go about their daily tasks, that would be wacko, that would be very extreme. But it's not just on drug policy that Justin Trudeau holds positions or views that are so far removed from the mainstream public opinion. It's on a whole host of issues, like on drugs, free speech, banning plastics, the carbon tax, his association with the World Economic Forum. But before we get into that, you know what's not extreme? Liking and subscribing to my channel. Only a wacko would watch this video and not like and subscribe. So do that now. Justin Trudeau's drug policy is way out there. We already talked a little bit about the fact that he legalized the use of hard drugs like meth, crack, opioids in public places. So bus stops, public transit itself, hospitals, parks. There are reports of dogs overdosing because they sniff a pile of drug residue on the grass.
A South Surrey man is warning other dog owners after his Labrador nearly died of a fentanyl overdose. The dog had to be revived with naloxone after somehow inhaling or ingesting the deadly drug while out for a walk.
This did not happen in Canada before Justin Trudeau was elected, but he systematically started to put in policies that made it easier to access drugs and took away tools from law enforcement to get drug users into the programs that they need to get help and to make our community safer for law-abiding Canadians. Making it legal to use these dangerous drugs in public places was not enough for Justin Trudeau. Because he's such an extremist, he went even further. He started using taxpayers' money to buy powerful narcotics and give them to drug users. And you know what happened? Those government-funded drugs were found all across Canada.
The Prince George RCMP say after a months-long investigation, it has seized over 10,000 pills, including prescription and non-prescription drugs.
That's because a person who picks up drugs at a government-run consumption site often turns around and sells them to other users, takes the money, and buys even more powerful narcotics. Just take a look at the impact. BC's safe supply drugs being sold by organized crime across Canada. Quote, organized crime groups are actively involved in the redistribution of safe supply and prescription drugs. That's from the RCMP. So this extreme and radical program by Justin Trudeau has the effect of increasing the amount of dangerous drugs on our streets. That's wacko. Now, after the BC NDP government realized that they were plummeting in the polls and that British Columbians were sick and tired of this drug policy, they did a massive reversal, asked Justin Trudeau to reverse his decision and make this use illegal again.
The request to the federal government is essentially recriminalization of the possession or use of illicit drugs in public spaces, period.
But don't be fooled. Justin Trudeau still believes in this policy. He said that decriminalization is still a tool that his government will look at in the future. Before we get into some more domestic issues, there's another point I want to make about Justin Trudeau's radical extremism, and that's his government's relation to the World Economic Forum.
There's enormous opportunity and enormous potential in that realization.
I could do a whole video on all the wacko ideas the World Economic Forum advocates for. All you need to know is Chrystia Freeland, Justin Trudeau's Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, sits on the board of the World Economic Forum. So let's just take a look at a few of their greatest wacko hits. Own nothing, be happy. Eating bugs. Digital currencies. 15-minute cities. The list goes on and on. These are not conspiracy theories. These are policies or proposals that the WEF has published on its own website. It's right there in black and white and full color for you to see. Nobody wants this. That's why the elites are trying to impose it top down. If they were good ideas, the people themselves would be demanding it, but they're not because they're fringe and extreme. Now, conservative policies are, in contrast to Trudeau, much more mainstream. Take crime, for example. Conservatives believe that dangerous and repeat offenders should face meaningful...
One moment, Andrew. So let me just ask you guys this. Was that good enough for you? Was it at least a start? Are you somewhat satisfied that the opposition House Leader, Andrew Scheer, very high-ranking member of the Conservative Party of Canada, not the leader anymore, but used to be, was at one time a Speaker of the House, is going on YouTube and talking about the Liberal association with the World Economic Forum, eating bugs, you will own nothing and be happy, pointing that out, trying to make this mainstream. Interesting. Now, this video has been seen 22,000 times in only 3 hours. So over the next few days, we can imagine that number is going to go up and up and up and up. By letting, and make no mistake, they are letting Andrew Scheer or encouraging Andrew Scheer to talk about this. That means what? That means now this is going to become a heavy conservative talking point as we head into the next election, of course, we do have another election. I've got a theory about the American election. I've got a theory about the next pandemic being called, and that's all going to be coming up in the extension in about 5 minutes on shadowdavis.com. So let's finish this up here.
Consequences so that you can live your life in safety, so that you don't have to worry about your kids playing at the park or about getting mugged when you're done your shift at the end of the day. Now, conservatives believe in important principles like rehabilitation, diversion, and helping people get out of a life of crime and back to being productive members of society. But if someone commits the same crime over and over again, especially violent offenses, that person needs to be kept away from all the people who are following the laws and being peaceful. That's a very common sense, mainstream approach. But Justin Trudeau doesn't think so. Justin Trudeau actually ordered judges to grant bail, even for some of the most prolific, habitual, and violent offenders. So many crimes today are being committed by people who are out on bail. Rather than spending time in custody before their trial, they're given a free pass. It's called the Catch and Release Program. And police forces across the country have raised the alarm, saying this is a big part of the reason why there's an increase in violent crime across Canada.
He opened my car door and then I tried to stop him, so I was like, hey, what are you doing? Get out, get out.
Seth Packer did not get out of the car, but after strike 1, strike 2, and strike 3, he did get out of jail.
He was released into the community, and it's unfortunate, but the decision isn't up to the police, only to then break and enter into somebody's home, steal their wallet, and attempt to conduct another carjacking.
Packer was arrested a third time here in the 1900 block of Richardson Street Tuesday night. 3 incidents in 3 consecutive days, a total of 9 charges.
And what does Justin Trudeau do in response? He doubles down and defends his radical, extremist, and wacko policy of letting violent and dangerous offenders back out on the street with easy bail. And when they do go to jail, when they are actually sentenced to prison, what does prison look like for some of Canada's most notorious and horrific killers? Paul Bernardo is not just a murderer. He is a demonic killer who brutally and horrifyingly killed young girls at the prime of their life. My colleague Frank Caputo did an excellent video doing a deep dive into the luxurious lifestyle that some of Canada's worst killers enjoy serving their time. Only someone with an extreme and radical ideology would think it's okay to let violent killers like Paul Bernardo and Luca Magnotta serve out their sentences in a life of luxury. Let's take a look at Justin Trudeau's favorite policy, his carbon tax. He loves the carbon tax. He knows the pain it's inflicting on Canadians. That's why he had to grant a carve-out to only some people in some parts of the country. It's driven up food prices. It's driving up gasoline prices. It's causing a great deal of hardship and misery. And here is Justin Trudeau's position. It's not high enough. Justin Trudeau's position is to quadruple the carbon tax. Now, recent polling has shown that 80% of Canadians reject Justin Trudeau's plan to increase the carbon tax. But he's not bothered by that. He doesn't care that mainstream opinion is opposed to his radical agenda, and he's going to plow ahead and keep hiking that carbon tax. Quadrupling the carbon tax in the middle of a cost of living crisis over the objection of 80% of Canadians, that is extreme, radical, and wacko. I could list all the ways that Justin Trudeau is a radical extremist on so many policies that affect your life, but that would be like a 2-hour video. Now, I'm going to keep this video focused on his policies and his positions, and not unpack all the ways that Justin Trudeau is a wacko on a personal level.
Blackface.
And I'm okay doing that at some point. But for now, very quickly, other examples of Justin Trudeau's extreme position. Saying no to our international allies when they come to Canada, begging to buy our clean, ethical LNG, banning plastic across the country, controlling free speech and regulating more and more of what you're allowed to see and say online. Those are not mainstream positions held by the vast majority of Canadians. Those are the extreme radical views of a dangerous ideologue intent on imposing his vision for the country over the objection of common sense voters. Let's come back here. What's more dangerous to Canada? A word like wacko being used to describe Trudeau's policies? Or the policies themselves that cause so much hardship for Canadians? So the next time the Speaker of the House of Commons kicks out a Conservative for using a word like wacko to describe Justin Trudeau, or the mainstream media lose their collective minds analyzing whether wacko is parliamentary or not.
Professor, without knowing precisely what the danger is, would you say it's time for our viewers to crack each other's heads open and feast on the goo inside? Yes, I would, Ken.
Pay attention to the policies themselves. And the next time Justin Trudeau calls someone else an extremist or radical or representing the fringe, never forget, he's the radical, he's the extremist, he's the wacko. And as always, thanks for watching.
Okay, so I've seen a lot of your comments here in the the screen, my little comment screen, and I'm seeing a lot of I don't trust Andrew Scheer. He smiles too much. There's something the matter with him. My discernment is kicking in. I think Andrew has got a problem with his face. His face. He kind of, when he smiles, it tends to be a little bit much. It's not that he's doing it on purpose. It's very Grinchy almost, and some people used to call him the Joker. Because, that's his face. What are you going to do? I believe that Andrew Scheer, just by saying the things he said in that video, he's put it out there. All right, so you can sit there and you can say now, well, they're lying. It's a red herring. They're all in the same. Yeah, look, okay, I get it. And here's what I have to say to that. I have to say that some members of all parties are in on it. Some are not. I would say the Conservatives right now are our best bet to getting to a situation where we can get out of this. But we still have to stay focused on what they're doing as well. We can't just take our foot completely off the gas and stop everything and just go back to try to live normal lives, because that's not going to happen until we make it happen. We're the ones who have to get them to do the thing. And don't forget, even if the Conservatives and Donald Trump, let's say in the United States, win the next elections, if there are elections, and I've got a theory about that coming up in the extension on shadowdavis.com, the Marxists are not going away. They're always going to be there. They're not vanishing. They're going to be on social media. There's still going to be the protests. Matter of fact, they might get worse. They might get louder because they're not getting their way anymore. And you know what it's like when children don't get their way. So the fight goes on. Coming up in the extension in just a couple of minutes on shadowdavis.com. When do I think the next pandemic will be declared with H5N1? We have some stories about that coming up. We've got some leaked video from Theresa Tam that pretty much confirms that the World Health Organization will indeed be declaring a pandemic at some point soon over the bird flu, H5N1. If you'd like to become an all-access member at shadowdavis.com, just go there and become one. That's all you need to do. And then you get the extension, which is starting in exactly 2 minutes. If not, I will catch you tomorrow night on the show at 8 o'clock Central with Boyd Anderson and Dale Richardson. And if so, I will talk to you in 2 minutes' time on shadowdavis.com. I love you all. I appreciate you all. And I will see you.